Question 1. A marketing department notices that its online advertising campaign is underperforming. The analyst team discovers that reallocating funds to a different channel could increase engagement and return on investment. Which approach best demonstrates how data storytelling drives business action? Select one answer. A. Using reports to explain technical database architecture. B. Presenting data visuals that highlight campaign performance and proposed reallocation. C. Focusing exclusively on raw data tables without context. D. Avoiding any narrative interpretation of results. Correct answer. B. Presenting data visuals that highlight campaign performance and proposed reallocation. Great. Now let's walk through the explanation briefly and clearly. First, data storytelling turns analysis into action by combining visuals with concise narrative, so decision makers immediately see what's underperforming and what should change. Next, option B does exactly that by showcasing performance trends alongside the suggested budget shift, which naturally leads leaders to reallocate funds toward higher performing channels. However, option A centers on infrastructure explanations, which seldom drive business action because stakeholders need implications, not schema details. Similarly, option C relies on raw tables. Without context or visuals, patterns hide in rows and columns, so recommendations don't land. Finally, option D removes the story element entirely. Without narrative, insights lack urgency and fail to motivate change. For a quick, real-world tie-in, imagine visuals revealing low ROI on display ads but strong returns on paid search. A simple chart plus a short narrative prompts an immediate budget move, improving engagement and ROI. Question 2. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Reports that tell a story help leaders understand what data is communicating. True, accurate storytelling through data reduces leaders' understanding of performance metrics. False, capturing data from trusted sources supports reliable decision-making. True, meaningful reports are unnecessary when leaders already have access to raw data. False. Now let's move on to the explanation to understand why each statement is correct or incorrect. First, reports that include storytelling make complex data easy to interpret, turning figures into meaningful insights that leaders can act upon. Next, the idea that storytelling reduces understanding is incorrect because effective storytelling enhances clarity. It connects data points to real business outcomes. Furthermore, capturing information from reliable sources ensures decisions are based on accurate, credible facts, which strengthens business confidence. Lastly, assuming raw data alone is sufficient is misleading. Without context and interpretation, leaders can misread trends or overlook patterns that only well-structured reports reveal. In practice, well-told data stories supported by verified data lead to better decisions and more strategic business actions. Question 3. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. Data analysis turns trusted sources of information into consumable formats that are meaningful and easily understood, helping organizations make confident decisions. Now, let's go through the explanation to see why each answer fits perfectly. First, trusted sources are vital because reliable data origins ensure the accuracy and credibility of any analysis. Next, transforming data into consumable formats allows decision makers to absorb and act on insights quickly, rather than getting lost in raw figures. Furthermore, information must be meaningful and easily understood, so stakeholders can interpret patterns without needing complex technical knowledge. Finally, all these elements together enable confident decisions, where reliable insights guide business actions with clarity and assurance. For instance, when a company uses verified sales data to create clear visual dashboards, leaders can confidently adjust marketing strategies and budgets based on accurate evidence. Question 4. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Analytics engineers may prepare both lakehouses and data warehouses for analysis. True. Data engineers ensure seamless integration across different data services and platforms. True. Data analysts are primarily responsible for designing infrastructure pipelines. False. Data scientists rely on exploratory and predictive analytics to derive insights. True. Now let's move on to the explanation to understand each one clearly. To begin, analytics engineers indeed work across various storage systems like warehouses and lakehouses, preparing data models that support analysis. Additionally, data engineers handle integration between services and platforms, ensuring that systems communicate effectively for smooth data flow. However, building infrastructure pipelines isn't the main role of data analysts. This responsibility belongs to data engineers, as analysts focus more on exploring and interpreting data. Finally, data scientists use exploratory and predictive techniques to uncover trends, patterns, and forecasts that drive strategic decisions. For example, a data scientist might explore sales data to identify seasonal trends and then predict next quarter's performance, like helping a company plan inventory more efficiently. Question 5. A data analyst at a retail company needs to design and publish a report showing regional sales performance. They want to create the report, model the data, and then share it securely with managers. Select 2 answers. 2A. Install Power BI Gateway to automate report creation. B. Create and model the report in Power BI Desktop. C. Publish and manage the report in the Power BI service. D. Use Power BI Mobile to build the report. So correct answers. B. Create and model the report in Power BI Desktop. And C. Publish and manage the report in the Power BI service. Now let's move on to the explanation to understand why these two are correct. First, Power BI Desktop is where analysts create and model data, design visuals, and structure the report layout before publication. Next, once the report is ready, the Power BI service is used to publish, organize, and securely share the report with managers, ensuring everyone accesses the most current version. On the other hand, Power BI Mobile is mainly for viewing and interacting with existing reports, not for building or modeling them. Similarly, the Power BI Gateway connects on-premises data to the cloud but does not automate report creation, so it doesn't fit the described task. In practice, this workflow, building in desktop and publishing through the service, ensures both control and accessibility in professional reporting environments. Question 6. For each data role in Microsoft Fabric, drag it to the capability that best matches its responsibilities. Uses pipelines to automate data ingestion and transformation. Data engineer. Curates and manages lakehouse data for analytics use. Analytics engineer. Connects directly to OneLake with direct lake mode to create reports. Data analyst. Builds machine learning models using Python and Spark notebooks. Data scientist. Creates reports and dashboards from curated datasets with minimal code. Citizen developer. Now let's explain how each role aligns with its capability. First, the data engineer handles ingestion and transformation, automating workflows through pipelines and managing lakehouse storage efficiently. Next, the analytics engineer bridges the gap between engineering and analysis by curating and modeling clean, structured datasets ready for reporting. Meanwhile, the data analyst connects to OneLake via direct lake mode to build insightful reports and dashboards, focusing on data interpretation. Then, the data scientist develops predictive and machine learning models using Python and Spark to uncover deep insights and automate predictions. Finally, the citizen developer leverages Power BI templates and pre-curated datasets to quickly produce reports without heavy coding knowledge. The unused option Database Administrator doesn't apply in Microsoft Fabric, as Fabric's unified environment abstracts traditional database management tasks. Question 7. Which statement best distinguishes a business analyst from a data analyst? Select one answer. A. Specializes only in deep learning experiments. B. Designs data pipelines across hybrid estates as the core function. C. Manages database servers and operational data management as the primary responsibility. D. Interprets visualization output to drive business understanding, whereas the other profiles clean, transform data, and build semantic models. Correct answer, D. interprets visualization output to drive business understanding, whereas the other profiles clean, transform data, and build semantic models. Now, let's move into the explanation for better clarity. The business analyst primarily focuses on interpreting reports and visuals to explain what the data means for business performance and strategy, turning analytics into action. By contrast, the data analyst handles technical preparation, cleaning data, transforming it, and building semantic models, often using tools like Power BI to prepare insights for consumption. Option A is incorrect because deep learning is typically a data science domain, not a business analysis task. Option B fits data engineers who design data pipelines, while option C describes database administrators responsible for managing servers and operational data. In short, the key difference is that the business analyst bridges analytics and business decisions, focusing on interpretation rather than data preparation. Question 8. Which capabilities are explicitly part of the data analyst's remit in Power BI? Select two answers. A. Operate long-running ingestion services across data streams. B. Provision physical servers for the data platform. C. Manage reports, dashboards, workspaces, and underlying semantic models. D. Implement and configure security for reports and workspaces. Correct answers: C. Manage reports, dashboards, workspaces, and underlying semantic models, and D. Implement and configure security for reports and workspaces. Now let's break down why these two are correct. First, data analysts in Power BI are responsible for maintaining and managing reports, dashboards, and semantic models. This ensures that the data presentation layer remains accurate, organized, and accessible to users. Next, they also configure and implement security within workspaces, setting permissions so that reports are only viewed by the right people and comply with governance standards. On the other hand, operating ingestion services or provisioning servers, as stated in options A and B, are duties that belong to data engineers who manage the infrastructure and pipelines behind the data. In essence, a Power BI data analyst's focus lies in managing assets, ensuring secure access, and delivering trustworthy visual insights that drive confident decision-making. Question 9. Modern tools like Power BI have changed the way organizations perform data analysis. What impact has this had on who can analyze data? Select one answer. A. It replaces the need for data preparation before modeling. B. It eliminates the need for understanding reports and metrics. C. It restricts data analysis to users with advanced programming skills. D. It allows a wider range of users to perform analysis that was once limited to data engineers and data scientists. Correct answer: D. It allows a wider range of users to perform analysis that was once limited to data engineers and data scientists. Now let's explore why this answer is correct and the others are not. Power BI has democratized data analysis by enabling users with little to no coding experience to visualize, explore, and interpret data effectively. This means business professionals and analysts can now generate insights independently without relying solely on technical experts. Meanwhile, option C is incorrect because Power BI actually reduces dependency on advanced programming, making analytics more accessible. Option B is wrong as well, since understanding metrics and reports remains crucial for interpreting findings accurately. Lastly, option A is false because even with Power BI, data still requires proper preparation and modeling before meaningful analysis can take place. In essence, modern tools empower a broader audience to turn data into decisions, bridging the gap between technical specialists and business users alike. Question 10. Tailwind Traders wants an on-premises SQL Server dataset loaded into Power BI for fast modeling and report interactions. Data is refreshed nightly and live per-query trips to the database aren't required. From the SQL Server connector, which data connectivity mode best fits? Select one answer. Direct query. B. Import. C. Create connection only, no data. D. Push dataset. Correct answer: B. Import. Now, let's go through the explanation to understand why import is the best choice. The import mode copies data directly into the Power BI model, providing faster interactivity and smoother report performance since queries are processed within Power BI rather than the database itself. Because the data only needs to refresh nightly, a scheduled refresh easily keeps the model up to date without live connections. On the other hand, Direct Query keeps data in the source and sends queries in real time, which isn't needed here and could introduce unnecessary latency. Create connection only doesn't actually load data or model it, so it's not a valid connectivity mode for this scenario. Lastly, push dataset refers to a different mechanism used mainly for streaming or service datasets, not for SQL Server imports. Therefore, the import mode provides the ideal balance between speed, simplicity, and refresh flexibility for Tailwind traders' reporting needs. Question 11. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. Power Query records each transformation as an applied step visible in the query settings pane and modifies only a view of the data, leaving the original source unchanged. Now let's move on to the explanation so you can fully understand how this process works. Each applied step in Power Query represents a specific transformation action stored in sequence and replayed each time the query refreshes, ensuring repeatability. The query settings pane displays these steps, giving users full visibility and control over how the data is shaped and cleaned. Next, Power Query only modifies a view of the dataset. It doesn't overwrite or alter the underlying file, meaning all transformations are virtual. Finally, the original source remains intact, protecting the raw data from any unintentional changes while still allowing dynamic transformations. In essence, Power Query acts like a mirror. It reshapes the reflection of your data without touching the original content, ensuring both safety and flexibility in data preparation. Question 12. Arrange the steps to change a column's data type in Power Query Editor. Instruction: drag and drop the items into the correct order, starting with the first step at the top. 1. Select the column to fix. 2. Choose the correct data type, transform tab, data type, or headers type icon. 3. Verify that a change type step appears in query settings. 4. Select close and apply to load changes to the model. Now let's move into the explanation to see why this order must be followed exactly. First, you begin by selecting the column that needs correction, as Power Query must know which field the change will apply to. Next, you choose the correct data type from either the Transform tab or the Type icon, which defines how Power BI interprets the column's contents. Then it's essential to verify that a Change Type step appears in the Query Settings pane. This confirms the transformation has been recorded properly. Finally, you select Close and Apply to apply the updates and load them into the Power BI model. This order is immutable because the data type change must be recorded before committing it, otherwise the model would not reflect the modification accurately. Question 13. For each Power BI model framework, drag it to its correct definition in the correct match column. All model tables have storage mode set to import model. All model tables have storage mode set to direct query from the same source group, direct query model. Tables span more than one source group, composite model. Now let's move through the explanation together to understand each relationship clearly. An import model stores all its data locally within the Power BI file, enabling fast query performance since it relies on cached data rather than live database calls. In contrast, a direct query model keeps data in the source system and queries it in real time, but all tables must originate from a single source group. Meanwhile, a composite model blends the two approaches, allowing tables from multiple source groups, which may include both import and direct query modes. Unused options like dataset and hybrid dataset don't apply here because a dataset refers to a published artifact in the Power BI service, and hybrid ingestion describes refresh behavior, not a model type. Altogether, these frameworks define how Power BI manages storage, refresh, and source integration across different reporting scenarios. Question 14. A report user needs the latest values before a meeting right now, but scheduled refresh won't run again for several hours. What's the most appropriate action? Select one answer. A. Increase the scheduled refresh frequency beyond the capacity limit. B. Enable large dataset storage format to bypass refresh schedules. C. Trigger an on-demand refresh of the dataset. D. Switch the model to direct query without any other changes. Correct answer, C. Trigger an on-demand refresh of the dataset. Now, let's go through the reasoning to understand why this is the best approach. When immediate updates are required, users can manually trigger an on-demand refresh, which instantly refreshes the dataset outside of the regular schedule and pulls the most recent data into Power BI. By contrast, increasing the refresh frequency won't work because Power BI capacity limits control how often scheduled refreshes can occur, and exceeding that limit isn't allowed. Similarly, enabling large dataset storage format relates to model size management within premium capacity. It doesn't override refresh intervals. Lastly, switching to direct query would require a full model reconfiguration and isn't a quick solution for a single urgent update. Therefore, triggering an on-demand refresh is the most efficient and practical way to ensure users have the latest data before their meeting. Question 15. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Enterprise models should handle large data volumes, high query throughput, and require fast responsiveness. True. You should always plan the model framework carefully before committing to a design. True. Choosing direct query is always better for performance in large data sets. False. Import models don't benefit from data reduction because Power BI compresses data automatically. False. Now let's go through the explanation step by step for clarity. First, enterprise-level models must indeed support high query loads and quick response times. Balancing scale with performance is essential for large business environments. Next, planning the model framework is critical because the choice between import, direct query, or composite affects refresh speed, scalability, and governance, so it must align with project needs. However, direct query isn't always the best for large data sets. While it keeps data live, it introduces source latency and can slow down queries compared to cached import models. Finally, even though Power BI compresses imported data, data reduction still improves performance by lowering memory usage and shortening refresh times. In short, the right framework and data strategy together ensure both efficiency and reliability in Power BI performance. Question 16. Your SQL logic includes several joins and filters. You want centralized maintenance by the DBA and efficient retrieval in Power BI. What's the best approach? Select one answer. A. Paste a long select query directly into Power BI and filter later. B. Ask users to filter with slicers to reduce data. C. Create a database view with the required logic and connect Power BI to that view. D. Duplicate the table in Power BI and hide extra columns. Correct answer, C. Create a database view with the required logic and connect Power BI to that view. Now, let's go through the reasoning together. By creating a database view, you encapsulate the SQL joins and filters centrally, allowing the database engine to handle optimization and ensuring consistency across all reports. This approach reduces duplication of logic and enables query folding, which improves performance by pushing transformations back to the source for efficient processing. In contrast, pasting a long select query directly into Power BI can pull unnecessary columns and increase data load time, making it harder to manage changes. Asking users to rely on slicers doesn't minimize data retrieval, it only filters what's already loaded into the model, which doesn't improve efficiency. Duplicating tables and hiding columns, on the other hand, wastes storage and complicates maintenance without addressing the root performance issue. Therefore, connecting Power BI to a well-designed database view remains the cleanest, most scalable, and high-performing solution. Question 17. Which statement best captures the definition versus typical composition of a composite model? Select one answer. A composite model is any model with a direct query table, regardless of source groups. B, a composite model is defined as having more than one source group, and it's typically a mix of import and direct query tables. C, a composite model requires exactly two direct query source groups and no import tables. D, a composite model is any star schema model, regardless of storage modes. Correct answer, B. A composite model is defined as having more than one source group, and it's typically a mix of import and direct query tables. Now, let's move into the explanation to understand why this answer is correct. A composite model allows data from multiple source groups to coexist, which means tables can originate from both import and direct query modes, enabling flexibility in combining local and live data. This hybrid approach provides performance optimization and versatility, using import for fast access and direct query for real-time connectivity where needed. Option A is incorrect because a single direct query source group represents a direct query model, not a composite one. Option C is also wrong since composite models don't require exactly two source groups and import tables are often part of the mix. Finally, option D confuses schema design with model type. A star schema describes structure, not storage behavior. In summary, composite models are powerful because they unify multiple data sources, offering both speed and flexibility within one Power BI model. Question 18. For each statement below, indicate whether it's true or false. A calculated column is evaluated when the semantic model refreshes. True. A measure is evaluated when a user queries a visual. True. A calculated column's results are stored in the model. True. A measure's results are stored permanently. False. Now let's go through the explanation to understand why each statement is correct or incorrect. First, calculated columns are processed and evaluated at refresh time, meaning their results are stored in the model once computed and persist until the next refresh. Next, measures behave differently. They are evaluated dynamically whenever a user interacts with a visual, providing instant calculations based on the current context. Since calculated column values are saved in the model, they occupy storage and contribute to model size, unlike measures which only exist during query time. Finally, measure results are not stored permanently. They are recalculated every time a report visual or filter changes, ensuring that the data shown always reflects the latest query context. In short, calculated columns store static values at refresh, while measures deliver flexible real-time calculations on demand. Question 19. For each statement below, indicate whether it is true or false. Many DAX functions originated from Excel to help users transition smoothly. True. Over 80 Excel functions exist in DAX. True. The divide function must always include an alternate result argument. False. Distinct count counts all rows, including duplicates. False. Now let's go through the explanation together to make sense of each point. To start, many DAX functions were intentionally modeled after Excel formulas, allowing Excel users to adapt quickly when moving into Power BI's analytical environment. Next, DAX includes more than 80 Excel-based functions, maintaining familiar logic and syntax for calculations such as sum, average, and if. However, the divide function's alternate result argument is optional. It provides a fallback value if a division error occurs, but it's not mandatory to use. Lastly, distinct count doesn't include duplicates. It only counts unique values within a column, helping analysts measure distinct entries like customer IDs or product names. Altogether, these principles show how DAX blends Excel familiarity with enhanced analytical flexibility in Power BI. Question 20. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. When a DAX formula uses operators that combine different data types, DAX performs implicit conversions automatically. If the data type is incompatible with the operation, the result is an error. Now, let's move on to the explanation for full understanding. When DAX expressions involve different data types, for example, combining text with numbers, DAX automatically applies implicit conversions to make the operation possible. These conversions allow compatible types, such as numbers and text representations of numbers, to interact correctly during evaluation. However, when the types are truly incompatible, such as attempting to multiply a date by text, the result is an error, since DAX cannot resolve that operation logically. This behavior helps ensure that calculations remain consistent, while also alerting users when invalid data combinations occurs. In short, DAX handles type flexibility intelligently, but still enforces strict data rules to prevent calculation errors. Question 21. For each DAX relationship function, drag it to the definition that always applies, returns a single value from the one side of a relationship for the current row, related, returns a table of related rows from the many side of a relationship, related table, retrieves a value from another table when no relationship exists, lookup value. Now let's go through the explanation step by step for clarity. The related function fetches a single value from the one side of an existing relationship in the current row's context, making it perfect for bringing in attributes like category names or region descriptions. Meanwhile, related table returns all rows from the many side that correspond to the current record, allowing exploration of all related details such as individual transactions linked to a specific customer. Next, lookup value is used when no formal relationship exists. It matches a key column in one table to another and retrieves the associated value manually. Unused functions like sumx and pathitem serve different roles. Sumx aggregates expressions over a table, while pathitem is used in parent-child hierarchies, not relationship navigation. Altogether, these relationship functions enable smooth movement between tables in DAX, ensuring accurate cross-table analysis within Power BI models. Question 22. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. In DAX, when a unique column like customer key exists in a table, a context transition can occur automatically because the unique identifier acts as a filter for the current row. Now let's move on to the explanation so you can understand how this works. A unique identifier, such as customer key, uniquely distinguishes each record in a table, which allows DAX to apply context transitions precisely. During a calculation, that identifier automatically becomes a filter that narrows down the data to just the relevant record for evaluation. The row context, in turn, ensures that DAX evaluates expressions one record at a time, using that filter to produce accurate results. This mechanism is what enables row-level operations like calculated columns and measures in DAX to translate into proper filter context during execution. In essence, the unique key defines the record, the filter isolates it, and the row context drives how DAX interprets each calculation step by step. Question 23. For each time intelligence function, drag it to the correct description in the correct match column. Returns the earliest date within the current filter context, first date. Returns the latest date within the current filter context, last date. Iterates backward through dates to find the last date where an expression is non-blank, last non-blank. Iterates forward through dates to find the first date where an expression is non-blank, first non-blank. Produces a date column from a start date through an end date. Supports blank for open-ended bounds, dates between. Now let's walk through the explanation to see how each function operates. The first date function identifies the first valid date within the applied filters, ideal for finding the starting point of a reporting period. Similarly, last date locates the most recent date in the context, commonly used in end-of-period or trailing analyses. Meanwhile, last non-blank scans dates in descending order and returns the most recent date with a non-blank result, helping fill gaps where the latest day may lack data. On the other hand, first non-blank works in ascending order to return the earliest date where data actually exists, which is useful for first activity tracking. Finally, Dates between generates a continuous list of dates from a start to an end point, even allowing blank boundaries for open-ended calculations. In short, these time intelligence functions provide the backbone for precise and dynamic date-based analysis in DAX. Question 24. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Display folders are used to hide technical columns. False. The data category property can identify spatial or URL-based data. True. Image URLs can display pictures within table or card visuals. True. Numeric columns that summarize by default show a sigma icon. True. Now let's go through the explanation for each statement step by step. First, display folders are not meant for hiding columns. They're used to organize fields logically into groups, making complex models easier to navigate without changing visibility. Next, the data category property tells Power BI how to interpret certain fields. For example, labeling a column as a URL or geographic data type helps visuals like maps or image renderers function correctly. Furthermore, image URLs allow Power BI to embed images directly into tables or cards, pulling visuals from the web for a richer report experience. Lastly, numeric columns that aggregate automatically are marked with a sigma icon, showing that the column can be summarized using functions like sum or average by default. Together, these settings improve both the organization and interpretability of data models in Power BI. Question 25. A DAX measure named ANZ revenue calculates total revenue for customers in Australia and New Zealand. Which logical operator enables this multi-region filtering? Select one answer. A and, N, C, in, D, not. Correct answer. CN. Now let's go through the explanation clearly and step by step. The IN operator allows a DAX expression to test whether a value belongs to a list of specified items and creating an efficient multi-value filter. For example, a measure like customer country region in Australia, New Zealand, applies a logical OR between the listed countries, returning results for either one. On the other hand, the and operator would only return records that meet all conditions simultaneously, which isn't possible when filtering for multiple different regions. Similarly, or handles Boolean conditions but cannot evaluate membership within a list of multiple text values, the way in does. Lastly, not simply reverses a Boolean result. It doesn't compare values or create filters. Therefore, EN is the ideal choice for multi-region filtering because it simplifies logical conditions into one concise, readable expression. Question 26. A company's financial model uses a matrix that displays revenue by month and a year-to-date column. For August 2017, the YTD calculation includes dates from July 1st through August 31st, 2017. What explains this behavior? Select one answer. A. The YTD function expands the filter context from the first day of the year to the current filter date. B. The YTD function ignores the date table and uses calendar months. C. The YTD function always sums all historical data regardless of year boundaries. D. The YTD function automatically adjusts to quarter to date when multiple months are present. Correct answer. A. The YTD function expands the filter context from the first day of the year to the current filter date. Now let's go through the explanation to understand this clearly. The YTD function modifies the filter context in DAX so that all dates from the beginning of the year, whether fiscal or calendar, up to the current filter date are included in the calculation. This means that for August 2017, the function evaluates all data between July 1st, the fiscal year start, and August 31st, resulting in a cumulative total for that range. Option B is incorrect because the YTD function relies on a properly marked date table, not on fixed calendar months. Option C is also wrong since the function respects defined year boundaries rather than summing across all historical periods. Lastly, option D is incorrect because YTD doesn't convert to quarter to date automatically. That behavior requires a separate QTD function. In short, the YTD function works by expanding the date context from the year's startup to the selected point, ensuring accurate cumulative totals within the correct time frame. Correct frame. Question 27. A Power BI developer is reviewing a semantic model that produces correct results, but experiences long load times and sluggish updates when filters are applied. What should be the first focus before implementing optimization changes? Select one answer. A. Identifying the root causes of performance issues in the model. B. Adding calculated columns to increase data visibility. C. Creating additional visuals to summarize data. D. Applying formatting and themes to simplify the interface. Correct answer. A. Identifying the root causes of performance issues in the model. Now let's move on to the explanation to understand why this is the right starting point. Before making any optimization changes, a developer must first diagnose the root cause of the performance problem. This involves assessing the data model's structure, reviewing DAX expressions, and analyzing data volume to pinpoint inefficiencies. Jumping directly into changes without understanding the problem could worsen performance or mask deeper design issues. Option B is incorrect because adding calculated columns increases the model size and processing time, further slowing performance. Option C is also wrong, as creating more visuals raises rendering demand and does not solve the underlying issue. Lastly, option D focuses on report aesthetics, which doesn't influence data engine performance or query optimization. In summary, true optimization starts with root cause analysis, ensuring each fix targets the real source of inefficiency within the Power BI model. Question 28. Arrange the following steps in the direct query data retrieval process in the correct order. Instruction: drag and drop the items into the correct order, starting with the first step at the top. 1. Select the data source in Power BI Desktop. 2. Load the schema without importing data. 3. Create visuals in a report. 4. Send queries to the underlying source to retrieve data. Now let's go through the explanation to see how this process works. In direct query mode, Power BI connects directly to the data source instead of importing the data, which means queries are executed live each time visuals are refreshed or interacted with. First, you begin by selecting the data source in Power BI Desktop, establishing the live connection. Next, Power BI loads the schema, the structural definitions of tables and relationships, but doesn't copy the data locally. After that, you create visuals in the report, which define how data will be requested and displayed. Finally, Power BI sends queries to the underlying source whenever visuals are refreshed or filters are applied, retrieving the most current data directly from the system. Question 29. What does it mean when a function argument in DAX syntax is shown inside square brackets, such as value of false? Select one answer. A. The argument must always be included. B. The argument is optional. C. The argument represents a nested function. D. The argument indicates a numeric value. The correct answer is B. The argument is optional. Let's go through the explanation together. In DAX syntax, square brackets around a function argument like value of false mean that the argument is optional and doesn't need to be supplied for the function to execute. For example, in the if function, you can write either if condition value if true or if condition value if true, value if false. The function still works even if the third argument is omitted. This notation helps developers quickly recognize which arguments they can skip when writing formulas. Arguments without brackets are required, meaning the function won't run correctly unless those are provided. Therefore, when you see brackets in DAX syntax, they indicate an optional component of the function structure. Question 30. When you create a date table by using the calendar auto function in Power BI Desktop, what does the resulting table contain by default? Select one answer. A. Pre-built hierarchy of fiscal and calendar periods. B. Multiple columns for each table in the model that includes a date. C. separate columns for each date attribute such as year, month, and quarter. D, a single column that lists all dates within the detected range. The correct answer is D, a single column that lists all dates within the detected range. Now, let's go through the explanation together. The Calendar Auto function in Power BI automatically creates a date table based on the minimum and maximum dates found across your entire data model. By default, it generates one column named Date, which lists every date in that detected range, day by day. It does not automatically add separate columns for year, month, or quarter attributes. Those must be created manually using DAX functions such as year, month, or quarter if needed. It also does not include fiscal or calendar hierarchies unless you define them afterward. Therefore, by default, Calendar Auto produces a single continuous list of dates that acts as the foundation for time intelligence calculations. Question 31. What two statements correctly describe distinct and unique values in a column? Select two answers. A. Distinct values count the total number of different entries in a column. B. Unique values appear multiple times within a column. C. Distinct values represent all repeated values in a column. D. Unique values appear only once within a column. The correct answers are A. Distinct values count the total number of different entries in a column, and D. Unique values appear only once within a column. Let's break this down together. Distinct values refer to all different entries that exist in a column, regardless of how many times each appears. For example, if a column contains A, B, C, C, the distinct values are A and C, 3 different entries in total. Unique values, on the other hand, are those that occur only once. In the same example, only B appears once, making it the sole unique value. This distinction is important because distinct looks at the variety of values, while unique focuses on exclusivity within the data set. Therefore, distinct values represent all different entries, and unique values are those that appear exactly one time. Question 32. Power BI automatically creates relationships between tables when similar column names and data types exist. When would you need to manually create or edit a relationship? Select one answer. A. When the automatic relationship detection misses or incorrectly defines a relationship. B. When columns contain only numeric values with identical names. C. When a relationship already exists and cannot be deleted. D. When tables are stored in direct query mode. The correct answer is when the automatic relationship detection misses or incorrectly defines a relationship. Now let's go ahead and explain this together. Power BI has an automatic detection feature that creates relationships between tables based on column names and data types. However, this automated process is not always perfect. Sometimes it may fail to identify a valid relationship. For example, when columns have similar meanings but slightly different names, or it might incorrectly link unrelated fields simply because their names look alike. In such cases, you'll need to manually create or edit the relationship to ensure that the data model connects correctly and your visuals reflect accurate results. On the other hand, numeric columns with matching names are typically detected automatically, so no manual step is required there. Also, if a relationship already exists and works correctly, there's no need to recreate it. And finally, tables stored in direct query mode still support relationships, so that setting doesn't prevent automatic detection. Therefore, manual creation or editing becomes necessary only when Power BI's auto detection either misses or defines a relationship incorrectly, ensuring the integrity and accuracy of your data model. Question 33. An organization notices that users keep triggering new queries every time they adjust a slicer in a direct query report, slowing performance. What setting can reduce this issue? Select one answer. A. Add an apply button to each slicer so queries run only when ready. B. Increase cache duration in Power BI service. C. Enable instant apply mode for all slicers. D. Turn off data source privacy levels. The correct answer is add an apply button to each slicer so queries run only when ready. Now let's go through the explanation together. In direct query mode, Every slicer interaction triggers a new query to the underlying database, which can lead to slower performance when users make frequent adjustments. By adding an apply button to each slicer, Power BI waits until the user finalizes all their selections before executing the query. This setting effectively reduces unnecessary query refreshes, allowing all changes to be processed at once rather than repeatedly for each adjustment. On the other hand, increasing cache duration in Power BI service wouldn't solve this issue because caching is unrelated to how often queries are triggered from slicer changes. Likewise, enabling instant apply mode would make things worse, as it forces Power BI to run queries after every single change. And finally, turning off data source privacy levels affects how data is combined, not how slicer interactions behave. Therefore, using the apply button provides a more efficient and controlled way to manage query execution, improving responsiveness and overall report performance. Question 34. A report designer notices poor direct query performance and realizes they do not have administrative rights on the database server. What factor most limits their ability to improve performance? Select one answer. A. Lack of control over the source database prevents implementing performance improvements. B. Power BI automatically blocks all unapproved queries to external sources. C. Performance Analyzer cannot be used without database permissions. D. Direct query disables optimization within Power BI desktop. The correct answer is lack of control over the source database prevents implementing performance improvements. Now let's go through the explanation together. When working in direct query mode, Power BI sends live queries directly to the source database, meaning that performance depends heavily on how efficiently that database handles queries. If the report designer doesn't have administrative rights on the database, they cannot make performance-related improvements like creating indexes, optimizing queries, or modifying database schemas. As a result, they're limited to front-end optimizations such as simplifying visuals or adjusting filters, which only have a minimal effect compared to tuning the source system itself. Option B is incorrect because Power BI doesn't block approved connections. It simply relies on existing credentials to query the data. Option C is also wrong since the Performance Analyzer tool works locally within Power BI Desktop and doesn't require direct database permissions. Finally, option D is not correct because direct query still supports optimization within Power BI, though the greatest improvements usually come from the database side. Therefore, the key limiting factor here is lack of control over the source database, as most performance tuning must happen where the data actually resides. Question 35. Which statement about IntelliSense during DAX authoring is accurate? Select one answer. A. It automatically prefixes every column with its table name. B. It prevents use of nested functions. C. It provides code completion, lists functions and model resources, and shows function definitions. D. It only formats whitespace and does not assist with functions. The correct answer is it provides code completion, lists functions and model resources, and shows function definitions. Now let's go through the explanation together. IntelliSense is an intelligent coding assistant built into Power BI's DAX editor that makes writing formulas faster and more accurate. It helps by auto-completing function names, suggesting available tables, columns, and measures, and displaying function syntax and definitions as you type. This means that users can avoid syntax errors and quickly find the right DAX expressions without needing to memorize every function. Option A is incorrect because IntelliSense doesn't automatically prefix columns with their table names. It simply offers suggestions while leaving that choice to the author. Option B is wrong as DAX fully supports nested functions, allowing one function to be placed inside another. And option D is not correct since formatting whitespace isn't IntelliSense's main purpose. Its goal is to improve productivity and accuracy when authoring formulas. So in summary, IntelliSense enhances the DAX authoring experience by providing smart suggestions, function references, and auto-completion, making formula creation both efficient and error-free. Question 36. Which statement correctly describes the all, except, and all no blank row functions in DAX? Select one answer. A. They are no longer supported in any version of DAX. B. They are identical in purpose to keep filters. C. They all modify filter context and return table objects of distinct values. D. They can only remove filters from a specific column. The correct answer is they all modify filter context and return table objects of distinct values. Now let's go through the explanation together. The all, except, and all no blank row functions in DAX are powerful tools used to adjust the filter context within calculations. They work by removing filters from columns or entire tables, thereby returning a list of distinct values from the specified table or column. This capability is crucial in calculations like ratios or percentages of totals, where filters need to be cleared to calculate overall values rather than filtered subsets. These functions were among the first designed for filter removal and are considered predecessors to remove filters, which performs a similar task in newer DAX versions. Option D is incorrect because these functions can operate on full tables, not just individual columns. Option B is also wrong, as keep filters preserves filters rather than removing them, which is the opposite behavior. Finally, option A is not correct since these functions remain supported for backward compatibility and are still used in many models. Therefore, the best description is that all, except, and all no blank row modify the filter context while returning distinct table objects, enabling accurate aggregation and comparative analysis across unfiltered data. Question 37. You have taken over maintenance of a Power BI semantic model developed years ago by someone who has since left the company. Users report slow performance, and IT notes that the file size is unusually large. What should your next step be? Select one answer. A. Review the existing model to identify design choices that may cause performance issues. B. Create additional reports to test visual formatting options. C. Increase report color contrast and font size for readability. D. Duplicate the model to provide multiple report versions. The correct answer is A. Review the existing model to identify design choices that may cause performance issues. Let's go through the explanation together. When users experience slow performance and IT observes an unusually large model file, the issue typically lies in inefficient model design. The best next step is to analyze and review the existing semantic model to identify areas such as unnecessary columns, high cardinality fields, oversized tables, or poorly optimized relationships that could be inflating size and slowing queries. Creating additional reports or duplicating the model would only worsen performance, while increasing color contrast or font size addresses visual accessibility, not model efficiency. By reviewing the model's design, you can pinpoint optimization opportunities, like aggregations, data type changes, or incremental refresh to improve both speed and file management. Question 38. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Dashboards primarily answer how are we doing with focused visuals. True operational reports should minimize analytical features to keep users on task. True educational reports assume the audience already understands the data context. False. Analytical reports usually avoid interactivity to reduce complexity. False. Now, let's go through the explanation together. Dashboards are built for quick performance tracking and business monitoring, which is why they answer the question, how are we doing? Through clear visual summaries like KPIs and trend charts. Operational reports, on the other hand, focus on current data and task execution. So minimizing analytical features helps users act quickly without unnecessary distractions. Educational reports differ because they assume the audience may not yet understand the data fully, meaning they include detailed explanations, visuals, and guidance to help users learn and interpret insights. Finally, analytical reports are the opposite of static. They actively encourage interactivity through slicers, drill-throughs, and tooltips so users can explore data more deeply, rather than reducing complexity. In short, dashboards monitor, Operational reports streamline, educational reports explain, and analytical reports explore. Question 39. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. The bookmark action can activate a saved report view to guide users through a custom analytical flow. Now let's go through the explanation together. A bookmark action in Power BI is used to trigger a pre-saved report state or layout, allowing users to quickly return to a specific view of visuals, filters, and configurations. When used effectively, bookmarks can activate a saved report view, meaning they recall and display the exact arrangement of visuals or filters as it was when the bookmark was created. This is particularly useful when designing reports that tell a story or guide the audience step by step through insights. That's why bookmarks often form the foundation of a custom analytical flow, where users can navigate data interactively, move between pages, or reveal insights progressively, similar to a guided tour. In practical terms, this helps report designers control how information unfolds for users, ensuring clarity and a logical flow in analytical storytelling. Question 40. For each statistical summary concept in Power BI, drag it to the correct description in the correct match column. Represent a histogram in Power BI, clustered column or bar chart. Represent a bell curve in Power BI, area chart. Filters pane option that returns the top n items for a chosen field, and measure top n filter. DAX function that returns the top n rows of a table, TOPN. Context menu location for quick statistics on a summarizable field. Right-click the field in the visuals well. Now let's go through the explanation together. A clustered column or bar chart is typically used to represent a histogram in Power BI because it effectively displays the distribution of values across bins, showing how data is spread over intervals. When representing a bell curve, the area chart works best as it provides a smooth, continuous shape that resembles the normal distribution pattern often used in statistical analysis. The top n filter is a useful feature in the filters pane that allows users to display only the top items, such as the top 10 products by sales, by defining both the count and the value measure. On the other hand, the top n DAX function serves a similar purpose but operates within calculations, returning the top n rows from a table based on a specific expression or ranking logic. Finally, when you need quick statistics such as averages, medians, or counts, you can simply right-click the field in the visuals well, which opens a context menu with summarization options. Together, these tools make Power BI a strong platform for statistical summaries, combining visual representation, dynamic filtering, and powerful DAX computation for analytical insights. Question 41. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. The Analyze feature can be used on any visual by right-clicking a data point. True Power BI automatically creates a new visual when you select Explain the Increase. True. You can add an AI-generated visual to your report by selecting the ++ icon. True. Analyze works when non-numeric or measure filters are applied. False. Now let's go through the explanation together. The Analyze feature in Power BI is accessed by right-clicking on a specific data point within a visual, allowing you to explore patterns or insights automatically generated by the system. When you choose the option Explain the Increase, Power BI instantly produces an explanatory visual, such as a decomposition tree or a variance breakdown, helping identify contributing factors. After reviewing the AI-generated insight, you can use the ++ icon to save and add this visual directly to your report for further analysis or presentation. However, this feature only works with numeric or measure-based fields, since non-numeric fields lack the quantitative basis required for AI-driven analysis. Overall, this makes the Analyze tool a powerful feature for dynamic insight discovery, transforming data points into meaningful stories with just a few clicks. Question 42. For each configuration step or component, drag it to its correct description. Enables users to test different numeric outcomes on visuals interactively, what if parameter. Setting that ensures values adjust in small, consistent steps. Increment value. Checkbox that adds a slicer to the report automatically. Add slicer to this page. Rule that avoids decimal entry errors. Leading zero notation. Model object created automatically when parameter is defined. Parameter table and measure. Visual tool used to mark a target value on a chart. Constant line. Now let's go through the explanation together. The what if parameter feature in Power BI allows analysts to model hypothetical scenarios by adjusting numeric assumptions dynamically, which helps visualize different outcomes instantly. Next, the increment value defines how much the parameter changes whenever the slicer is adjusted, ensuring consistency in step size across the range of inputs. The Add Slicer to this page checkbox is a convenience feature that automatically places a slicer for the defined parameter on the active report page, allowing users to adjust it without manual setup. Meanwhile, leading zero notation, such as 0.50, prevents errors when entering decimal values by ensuring Power BI interprets them correctly during parameter input. When a parameter is created, Power BI automatically generates a parameter table and measure, embedding the new variable into the data model for use across visuals. Finally, the constant line is a visual element used to display a fixed reference or target value, often applied in line or bar charts for comparison purposes. Together, these configuration elements make what-if parameters in Power BI both interactive and precise, enhancing analytical modeling and presentation flexibility. Question 43. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. When configuring a new what-if parameter, set the data type to fixed decimal number, define minimum, maximum, increment, and default values, and check Add Slicer to this page. After creation, Power BI automatically adds a slicer visual and a parameter measure that become part of the data model. Now let's go through the explanation together. When creating a new what-if parameter in Power BI, the data type should be set to fixed decimal number, which ensures precise control over decimal inputs, especially useful for percentages or currency-based forecasts. Next, defining the minimum, maximum, increment, and default values determines how far the slider moves, its range, and its initial position when the report loads. By selecting Add Slicer to this page, Power BI automatically generates an interactive slicer, allowing users to adjust parameter values directly within the report. Once the parameter is created, Power BI builds both a slicer visual and a parameter measure, seamlessly integrating them to the data model for easy use across visuals and calculations. Altogether, this setup enables dynamic scenario analysis, letting users test different numeric assumptions and instantly visualize the outcomes. Question 44. A report designer creates a slicer using a date field that lets users choose last 7 days, next month, or today. Which slicer configuration is this? Select one answer. A. Numeric range slicer. B. Relative date slicer. C. Drop-down list slicer. D. Hierarchy slicer. The correct answer is B. Relative date slicer. Now let's go through the explanation together. The relative date slicer in Power BI filters data dynamically based on the current date or time, allowing users to view periods such as last 7 days, next month, or today without manually adjusting dates each time. It's particularly useful for dashboards that require continuous updates, since the filter recalculates automatically according to the system's current date. Unlike a numeric range slicer, which deals with numeric values, or a drop-down list slicer, which lists discrete options, the relative slicer focuses purely on time-based context, offering flexibility for real-time analysis. Similarly, a hierarchy slicer is used for layered fields like year, quarter, month, not for relative time filtering. In summary, the relative date slicer provides dynamic, time-sensitive filtering, ideal for performance tracking and trend analysis. Question 45. A page contains 5 visuals, but a slicer should filter only 2 of them. How should you configure it? Select one answer. A. Turn the slicer into a dropdown. B. Sync the slicer across pages. C. Use edit interactions. D. Lock the filters pane. The correct answer is C. Use edit interactions. Now let's go through the explanation together. In Power BI, edit interactions allows report designers to precisely control how visuals respond to slicers or other visuals on a page. By using this feature, you can configure the slicer to affect only specific visuals, in this case 2, while setting the remaining visuals interaction type to none. This ensures that only the intended visuals are filtered when users make selections, keeping other visuals static for comparison or context. Turning the slicer into a drop-down only changes its appearance, not its filtering scope, while syncing slicers across pages affects different pages rather than visuals on the same one. Similarly, locking the filters pane prevents edits but doesn't influence how slicers interact with visuals. Therefore, using edit interactions is the most effective way to customize and limit slicer influence, maintaining both precision and flexibility in your report design. Question 46. For enabling quick access to finer detail within a single visual, what configuration choices make the matrix visual suitable for drilling into data? Select 2 answers. A. Set the visual to no interaction so other visuals aren't affected. B. Assign hierarchies or multiple fields to rows and/or columns. C. Enable drill actions so users can traverse levels. D. Disable headers to create more canvas space. The correct answers are B. Assign hierarchies or multiple fields to rows and/or columns. And C. Enable drill actions so users can traverse levels. Now let's go through the explanation together. To make a matrix visual capable of drilling into data, you first need to assign hierarchies or multiple fields to either the rows or columns section. For instance, you could structure fields like year, quarter, month, date, allowing Power BI to recognize a hierarchy that supports drill navigation. Next, by enabling drill actions, users gain the ability to move deeper or back up within that hierarchy, exploring aggregated data at multiple levels of granularity. This drill capability empowers interactive analysis, letting users examine trends from broad overviews down to specific details. In contrast, setting visuals to no interaction only affects how visuals influence one another, not how data drills within a single matrix. Similarly, disabling headers might free up space, but doesn't impact the matrix's ability to support hierarchical exploration. Therefore, combining hierarchies and drill actions makes the matrix a powerful tool for multi-level data analysis. Question 47. Arrange the steps of using a drill-through button in the correct order. Instruction. Drag and drop the items into the correct order, starting with the first step at the top. Interact with a visual to establish drill-through context. Button becomes enabled. Select the drill-through button. Power BI navigates to the destination page and applies filters. Now let's go through the explanation together. When using a drill-through button in Power BI, the process begins when a user interacts with a visual, for example, by clicking a specific data point to define the drill-through context. This action activates the next step, where the button becomes enabled, signaling that Power BI has recognized the selected data context. The user then selects the drill-through button, which triggers navigation to the associated destination page. Finally, Power BI navigates to that destination page and automatically applies all relevant filters from the selected data point, allowing users to analyze more detailed information directly related to their selection. This step-by-step flow ensures a smooth, context-driven transition between visuals, supporting a seamless and interactive data exploration experience. Question 48. Which actions are directly available from visual header icons, not the model or formatting interfaces? Select 2 answers. A. Drill down. B. Change data source. C. Drill up. D. Manage relationships. The correct answers are A. Drill down and C. Drill up. Now let's go through the explanation together. In Power BI, visual header icons offer quick, interactive controls that allow users to navigate data hierarchies directly within a visual. When you select Drill Down, Power BI moves into a deeper level of the hierarchy, letting you explore more detailed data, such as moving from yearly sales to quarterly or monthly sales. Conversely, the Drill Up action lets users move back up that same hierarchy to a higher level view, providing flexibility to analyze data at various levels of granularity. Both actions are available directly through icons on the visual header, making them intuitive and accessible during analysis. On the other hand, changing a data source or managing relationships are not visual level tasks. They are performed in the model or data views, typically during report design rather than during interaction. Therefore, the correct pair of actions accessible from visual headers are Drill Down and Drill Up, as they both enhance hierarchical navigation within visuals. Question 49. You want a paragraph that auto-updates to say YTD sales are X versus target Y and stays in sync with page filters. Which choice best fits? Select one answer. A. Add a text box with dynamic values. B. Place a branded image and set an action. C. Insert a shape and style it with a shadow. D. Create a button that opens a URL to a KPI page. The correct answer is A. Add a text box with dynamic values. Now let's go through the explanation together. When you want text that changes automatically based on filters or slicer selections, the best option is to add a text box with dynamic values or use a smart narrative visual. This feature pulls live data directly from the semantic model, ensuring that displayed values such as YTD sales or target amounts update instantly as filters are applied. For example, if a user filters by region or product category, the text box adjusts to show updated figures that reflect those specific selections. On the other hand, using an image with an action only enables navigation, not dynamic text. A shape is purely decorative and cannot display data-driven content, while a button is used for triggering actions, not rendering updated numerical or textual information. Therefore, to display continuously updating text that reacts to report filters, the correct approach is to use a text box with dynamic values. Question 50. Which two statements about visual interactions are true? Select two answers. A. Holding control lets you layer multiple cross filters from different visuals. B. You can edit interactions to change a pair from cross filter to cross highlight. C. Visual interactions are always symmetric and cannot be disabled. D. Cross-filtering applies only to bar and column charts. The correct answers are A. Holding control lets you layer multiple cross-filters from different visuals, and B. You can edit interactions to change a pair from cross-filter to cross-highlight. Now let's go through the explanation together. When working with Power BI visuals, holding the Control key gives users the flexibility to apply multiple filters simultaneously across different visuals. For instance, you can select data in one chart and then hold Control to add another selection from a different chart, layering filters without clearing previous ones. Additionally, Power BI allows you to edit interactions between visuals. This means you can change how visuals respond to each other, switching between cross-filter, cross-highlight, or even disabling the interaction completely. This provides precise control over how visuals influence each other, which is especially useful when designing interactive dashboards. In contrast, visual interactions are not always symmetric. One visual can filter another without being filtered back, and they can also be disabled entirely. Moreover, cross-filtering is not limited to bar or column charts. It applies to many different visual types, such as maps, matrices, and scatter plots. Therefore, the correct answers are A and B, as both describe true and powerful capabilities of Power BI's interactive visuals. Question 51. For each Power BI workspace role, drag it to the correct description in the correct match column. Can view and interact with reports and dashboards without editing them. Viewer. Can create, edit, and delete content but not manage workspace settings or app publishing. Contributor. Can publish and update apps, share items, and modify data settings. Member. Has full control, including deleting the workspace and managing access. Now let's go through the explanation together. The viewer role allows only read-only access, meaning users can interact with dashboards and reports but cannot make edits or changes. The contributor role provides the ability to build, modify, and delete content, but contributors do not have permission to publish apps or alter workspace configurations. Next, the member role grants broader access. Members can publish and update apps, share reports, and manage data sets, though they cannot delete the workspace itself or assign administrative roles. Finally, the admin role holds full control over the workspace, including managing user roles, adjusting workspace settings, publishing permissions, and even deleting the workspace entirely. Therefore, each role in Power BI defines specific boundaries of control and responsibility, ensuring structured collaboration within a workspace. Question 52. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. Item-level sharing allows recipients to view a shared report and also access its semantic model, with visibility restricted by row-level security when configured. Now let's go through the explanation together. In Power BI, the semantic model is the underlying dataset that supports the report. It defines the structure, relationships, and measures used to generate insights. When a report is shared, recipients gain access not only to the visual layout, but also to the semantic model, which enables them to interact with the data behind the visuals. However, to maintain proper data governance, row-level security, RLS, comes into play. This feature restricts what data each user can see based on assigned roles or filters. For instance, a regional sales manager may only view data for their own region, even though the full dataset exists in the model. This ensures both flexibility and security, allowing shared access while enforcing privacy boundaries within the same dataset. Question 53. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Subscriptions in Power BI can include report attachments in PDF or PowerPoint formats when hosted in premium capacity. True. Usage metrics help identify which reports are most valuable to users. True. Performance metrics cannot detect browser-specific issues. False. Tracking usage and performance can improve content prioritization and report quality. True. Now let's go through the explanation together. In premium workspaces, subscriptions allow users to receive reports as PDF or PowerPoint attachments, making it easier to distribute insights across teams without opening Power BI directly. Next, usage metrics play a key role in understanding which reports or dashboards users engage with most often, helping report owners identify what content delivers the greatest value. On the other hand, the claim that performance metrics cannot detect browser-specific issues is incorrect because Power BI's performance metrics can, in fact, capture variations tied to browser type or rendering behavior. Finally, tracking both usage and performance supports data-driven optimization, allowing creators to enhance loading times, improve design, and prioritize reports that have the most business impact. Question 54. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Quick Insights uses machine learning algorithms to search for trends in your semantic model. True. Quick Insights is available in both Power Desktop and Power BI Desktop and Power BI Service. False. Each Quick Insight card contains a chart or graph and a short description. True. Quick Insights can analyze live direct query datasets. False. Now let's go through the explanation together. Quick Insights applies machine learning algorithms to automatically analyze data in the semantic model, detecting correlations, outliers, and trends that may not be immediately visible. However, it's important to note that this feature is available only in Power BI Service, not in Power BI Desktop, because it relies on cloud-based processing and insights generation. Each Quick Insight card presents a simple visualization such as a chart or graph, accompanied by a short text summary that explains the detected pattern or trend. Lastly, Quick Insights does not support direct query datasets since the analysis requires imported data to perform computations efficiently on the service side. Altogether, this feature provides an automated way to uncover valuable insights from your dataset without writing complex queries. Question 55. Fill in the blanks by selecting the correct options from the drop-down menus. Row-level security in Power BI uses DAX to enforce filters through roles, where the static method relies on a fixed value, and the dynamic method uses a DAX function. Now let's go through the explanation together. Row-level security, or RLS, is designed to restrict data visibility for users based on defined roles. These filters are implemented using DAX expressions, allowing Power BI to control which rows of data are visible depending on the user's role or identity. In a static RLS setup, filters are hard-coded to a specific value. For instance, limiting access to one department such as sales or one region like Europe. By contrast, a dynamic RLS method is more flexible. It uses DAX functions such as user principal name or lookup value to determine what data a user should see at query time. This dynamic approach ensures scalability and precision, particularly in organizations where multiple users need customized access levels that update automatically. Question 56. A company's IT department manages access to sensitive financial data in Power BI. Executives want a simplified view, while analysts need deeper interactivity with visuals. Which Power BI feature allows this balance of access and usability for different audiences? Select one answer. A. Workspaces. B. Apps, semantic models. D. Dashboards. The correct answer is B. Apps. Let's go through the explanation together. Power BI apps enable content creators to distribute tailored sets of dashboards and reports to specific audiences. This feature supports role-based access and ensures that each audience, such as executives and analysts, receives an experience suited to their needs. Executives can access a clean, summarized interface focused on KPIs, while analysts can explore interactive visuals and detailed reports within the same managed structure. In contrast, workspaces are designed for collaboration among report creators, not for distributing finalized content. Semantic models provide shared data foundations but do not manage audience-level access. Dashboards offer summaries but lack the ability to control access for multiple audiences. Therefore, apps are the right choice for balancing accessibility, usability, and security across different user groups. Question 57. Arrange the following steps to perform semantic model impact analysis in Power BI in the correct order. Open the workspace containing the semantic model, locate the semantic model card, select the Impact Analysis button, review the list of dependent reports and dashboards. Now let's go through the explanation together. The process begins by opening the workspace where the semantic model and related assets are managed, since all model dependencies are contained within that environment. Once inside, the next step is to locate the semantic model card, which visually represents the specific dataset or model you want to assess. After that, you select the Impact Analysis button. This tool reveals a dependency view showing how various reports, dashboards, and datasets are connected to the model. Finally, you review the dependent reports and dashboards to understand which elements would be affected by any structural or data-related changes made to the model. This structured approach ensures data consistency and minimizes disruption when updating key semantic layers across Power BI content. Question 58. What is one advantage of separating app publishing from workspace editing? Select one answer. A. It merges multiple workspaces into one centralized app. B. It prevents admins from deleting the workspace. C. It automatically enforces row-level security for all roles. D. It lets creators finalize and test updates before users see them. The correct answer is D. It lets creators finalize and test updates before users see them. Now, let's go through the explanation together. Separating app publishing from workspace editing gives report designers a dedicated space to develop and validate changes without affecting what end users currently view. Within the workspace, they can safely modify visuals, update data, and test interactions, ensuring everything works as intended before publishing. When ready, republishing the app pushes only reviewed and approved updates to the audience, keeping production content stable and consistent. This separation supports governance, minimizes disruption, and ensures that every update has been fully verified before users interact with it. Question 59. If a Power BI app's workspace is not hosted in a premium capacity, which license must users have to view its content? Select one answer. Power BI Pro or Premium per User PPU. Fabric free. C. Microsoft 365 E3. D. No license required if link is shared. The correct answer is A. Power BI Pro or Premium per User. Now, let's go through the explanation together. When a Power BI app's workspace is hosted outside a premium capacity, users must hold either a Power BI Pro or Premium per User PPU license to access its reports and dashboards. This ensures that only licensed users can view, share, or collaborate on app content that resides in a non-premium workspace. A Fabric-free license doesn't provide access in this case. It only works with premium capacity environments. Similarly, Microsoft 365 E3 licenses don't include Power BI app viewing rights, and simply sharing a link cannot bypass license requirements. Therefore, the Pro or PPU license is essential for users to open and interact with reports in non-premium workspaces. Question 60. A Power BI developer wants to ensure that dashboards display properly on smartphones while maintaining interactivity. What should the developer use? Select one answer. A. Grid view in Power BI Desktop. B. Mobile layout in Power BI Service. C. Web layout in Power BI Service. D. Data refresh scheduling. The correct answer is B. Mobile layout in Power BI Service. Let's go through the explanation together. The mobile layout in Power BI Service allows developers to design dashboards that are optimized for mobile devices. It lets them rearrange and resize visuals so that they fit neatly on smaller screens without losing interactivity. Unlike Grid View in Power BI Desktop, which focuses on aligning visuals during desktop design, the mobile layout ensures that the same visuals remain usable and responsive on phones. The web layout in Power BI Service simply displays the default desktop view, which may not scale properly on mobile devices. And data refresh scheduling affects only data updates, not visual presentation or layout. Therefore, the mobile layout feature ensures that dashboards look and function correctly across smartphones while keeping them interactive and visually accessible.